Okay, so in terms of framing questions and things like that, yeah, any other sort of random framing questions? Or what I wanted to do is actually show this whole issue of, there's this whole issue of it's called the wall framing extension, which will help you sort of put structural elements into walls, and then look at how we can sort of break our wall up into lots of different pieces. So when we try to like put together our assembly drawings, we can sort of introduce the pieces onto the stage at the right time. So does that sound good as the next step, or how are you guys doing? Oh, next up is just going to be, we were going to start looking at putting the framing into the walls and how we can then sort of show the walls as different layers so we can control when things show up on the stage.
Useful. Great.
Okay, no worries. We try to keep it useful. And again, if we miss your favorite topic, people have been shy, haven't been getting very many questions. If you want to go ahead and send questions, we'll try and answer those for individual groups too. So let's go back on over. I'm going to go back to Jansen just because I was playing with that. Not that, you know, I don't want to favor the Jansen group, but yeah, you sort of get, you develop your own favorite little models as you go. So I was just familiar with that. Don't save that. Oh, relinquish all that. Blah, blah, blah. What is it doing? It's just complaining about all sorts of stuff. Let me just go and close that out, and we'll go back over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. Actually, I should comment. I think Mary Lou and I were talking about this a little bit before we got started today. The group that's doing Fitzpatrick is using this thing called work sharing to let multiple different people kind of work on the file at the same time. There's a lot of good that comes out of that. There's a little bit of complexity that comes out of that in terms of setting that up. But if anyone wants some help in terms of setting that up for your project, we can give you some help on that, maybe as a different session or a different call to kind of like get you going. But that might be very, very helpful as you get towards the end and you actually want several people to be able to get to a file at the same time. But let me go ahead and show you kind of one of my favorite little extensions. And what it is good for is actually putting framing into walls. And you don't have to use this, but if you want to show the studs and the framing around the windows and things like that, and introduce some of that stuff automatically, there's a great extension. And extensions are things that really, you know, take the functionality of Revit and make it do other things that it doesn't do out of the box. And there's a good little sort of structural framing extension that's useful to us. And how it works is something like this. Okay, if you choose a wall, for example, let me just go ahead and choose that wall right here as an example. We can go through and under the extensions tab, if the extension's been loaded, and I know that some of the groups are working with it, so if anyone needs that extension, I can send you a link to where you can get to it. Or you can download it just from students.autodesk.com. There's some structural framing or architecture extensions. It's all sort of the same package. But there's a good one called wood framing walls that you can install. And what it does is it says, hey, if you've gone ahead and created a wall as a starting point, so we sort of know where the bounds of it are, the height, the length, the width, all those things, we can say, let's choose wood framing walls. And it brings up just some special functionality. And let's take a look at what it's doing here. This is an example of really, here's a wall, and it's got some studs in place. You'll see it has a top plate. It has some like studs on the sides. It's got some main studs where we're having the joins in the kind of plywood. It has some base plate in here. We can start adjusting this thing. Okay, if we start thinking about the different components of the wall, one thing we can do is start to adjust. It's really, what am I going to call it? It's really, it's the number of intermediate kind of like studs that exist in the wall. So for example, if I switch to like from walls or current wall, if I want to do all the walls just for the current wall, either way. Okay, if I say the number of intermediate studs, right now it's set to 1. So what it'll do is, if a length of plywood's 3'11" and 3/32, which is essentially 4 feet. Okay, one intermediate stud will basically put the studs at every 24 inches. If you want to make them every 16 inches, which is probably more common, just put 2 in there, and that'll basically put 2 intermediate studs in there between all the different like main studs. Okay, so you sort of get a sense of what the wall is going to look like here. Okay, some other things we can do just as we start kind of customizing the wall are, If I switch over to the external framing, that'll start to be, how the side studs and the top and bottoms are created. By default, you can see in this little picture down here in the lower right-hand side that there's a single top plate at the top of the wall. And if I wanted to go ahead and make it a double top plate, I can choose from the little pop-up menu, double or triple or whatever it is. These days, we'd probably use a double top plate. I'm not sure, actually. We'd have to go back and look at the details about how Schindler did that, whether it was a double or a single or what he had over there. Similarly, we have the issue of the bottom plate of the wall. Is it a single, a double, just what is it that we did? We can also go through and start to adjust things like, just how are the window openings handled right now? What do the studs look like at the side? What the header looks like. For right now, this actually has some sort of unusual header. If I can go back to current wall there again. Oh, actually, for this wall, there are no windows in it. That's why it's not giving me any choices. But what we can do is sort of start customizing a little bit about how we want the wall to be defined. And when we say OK, what it'll do is it'll say, hey, you've given me some wall geometry. Oh, a diagonal brace. Good question. Let's see if we can come up with anything for that. But can you see what's happened here? It's actually gone through and put in, the studs. It's put in the base plate, the double top plate. It's actually put in a lot of that stuff. Let's go back and again, we'll see if we can do the issue of the diagonal brace. That's a good one. I'm not sure. Let's take a look. T connections, openings. That's like blocking in the wall. Rotated. I bet if we were going to do something like that, and that's going to be rotated like the 90 degrees. That's just blocking between the. I don't see. Let me go ahead and put that on my list of kind of questions. It's kind of the whole diagonal brace, and I'll see if I can come up with an answer for that, but I don't see that one offhand. In terms of something being able to automatically generate, we can always do that ourselves, kind of put that in there as a separate piece. But actually, diagonal bracing is actually a tough one because, if you really get it to kind of cut into the studs, it's a lot of work in terms of how we actually go through and put that in there. So let me see if I can find anything about a better way to do that. Now, this issue of the framing, you'll see it kind of did an okay job. It didn't exactly do a great job, and let's talk about what it did. It did do okay in terms of putting the studs in the walls. That part's actually looking pretty good. For these door openings, it looks like the door openings that we put in here, it didn't quite exactly understand them as openings. So why is that? I'm going to see what they are. It does a pretty good job around the Revit standard doors, but this is my kind of special Schindler flush door. There might be something that's a little bit, that it's just not quite understanding about that, but not to worry. If it sort of overcompensates a little bit, I can always choose some of the individual framing elements and just start backing them out. What I'm doing is just hitting the delete key to knock them out. Over here, I got that base plate. I don't want it to extend quite so far. I'm just going to pull back the little blue dot. And see if I can get part way back into where the wall is. Okay, same thing up here at the top. There's a top plate there. Let me kind of pull that back in there too. Now, what's this extension good for? It doesn't solve everything. It ain't perfect in terms of what it's doing, but it at least will hopefully speed things up a little bit for you in terms of if you're trying to model all the individual wall framing elements. And that's the idea, is really just to kind of accelerate things a little bit. But there's, it's not going to solve all issues. Hopefully it'll actually just get you started a little bit in terms of being able to kind of see and model those things, relatively quickly, as opposed to, we can go ahead and really all it's doing is it's doing what we would do, only it's doing it a lot quicker. Okay, so how should they all find the extension? Let's find that. Okay, let me go over to just Safari. And let me go to students.autodesk.com. Okay, so we'll come out here. I'll go to my free software land. Probably going to ask me to log in here. Actually, not yet. I'm surprised. Okay, and if we go down to Autodesk Revit Architecture, let's see if it's under our Revit Architecture. We have to get it under Revit Structure. Download now. I'm looking. It's going to complain. Let me see if I can get myself in. See if I remember my password first. See how that goes. So what do we have under there? Select my version. Wow, looks like even 2013 is there. So that's pretty good. That surprises me. Okay. I'm just looking. That's just downloading the main one. What I'm looking for is where the extensions are. They're supposed to be under here too. I think of them being under their system requirements. Let me try under Revit Structure. If we can't find it in here, I'm going to basically like send you a URL that'll tell you where to get this, because I have it on like my little disk too. Because it's a very small little exe file that you need to install that. I'm thinking it's right there, but hang on. Let's try one other thing. Revit Architecture Extensions download. Let me try this. I think this will actually work there too, but that's going to get me into here. Now, let me not take you down this path because I don't think you'll be able to get that as a student. So let me say this. In terms of those Revit extensions, if I can't find how to get them directly, let me just kind of send you a URL where you can link to them. In fact, let me do this just so, since I got you right on the line here in terms of what's going on, let me just kind of show you, let's just fix that for you right now. So hang on, I'm going to go to my Dropbox. In Resources, Revit, Revit Extensions. I just have all sorts of stuff in here. Okay, Revit 2012, Revit Extensions, that one right there. Let me go ahead and copy this. I'm going to put it in my Dropbox in the public folder so you guys can get to it. And then in my Dropbox, public, I'll just drop them right in there. Looks like it's about 331 megabytes. So if someone wants to download this just while you're in class there and we can put it up on one of your servers, that'd be fine. Hang on, let's let that finish copying. And then let me just show you what the URL to that thing is. Actually, I just copied it there. Let me go ahead and I'll put it in the chat window so you can sort of see it over there. So let's try in there. There we go. So if anyone wants to go ahead and download that, can you see it in the chat window there? So if anyone wants to go ahead and download that, can you see it in the chat window there? Go ahead and download that whenever you want to. And really, one person should download it, and then we should find a way of sharing it around on a thumb drive or something like that. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and get that. Let's talk now, though. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and get that. Let's talk now, though, about this whole issue. We got this wood framing. We got some things in the walls. Okay, where is it on the Dropbox? Yes, so in the Dropbox. Oh, in the Dropbox. Actually, it's another place. Geez, why didn't I even think about putting it there? Open brain, insert something right. Let me copy this. Let me put it in the ModelingModern folder, and I'll just put it right at the highest level. Okay, forget all that downloading from the the URL because it's actually just, now it's in your Dropbox. Okay, so let's go back over here. Okay, so let's go back over here. Here's the next step we want to start thinking